Beauty and the Beast was never one of my favorite stories growing up, although it's not to say it didn't have a huge impact on me. When I watched the original Beauty and the Beast as a kid, when he took Belle into the library and that's amazing. And then spurred my obsession to want my own home library. So I have to say that's probably my favorite part of Beauty and the Beast growing up. Topher, can you not? Sorry, my cat is being trouble. Where was I? Hey. Rude. Okay. Here's another little buddy. Yeah? You gonna read books? Do you want to talk about books?
Welcome to my booktube.
Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. Before we get into anything, I do want to apologize. It is very overcast today, so I'm not sure what kind of effect that's going to have on my lighting. I also have the self-illuminate option on my phone for the first time, so I'm getting a lot of glare on my glasses, so if that drives you nuts, I'm so sorry. It's not something I notice in videos until people point it out, so if you're like me, I'm also sorry for bringing that to your attention. Today was the only day that I was able to record this weekend because it's been so bright and sunny, which would have been perfect, but unfortunately, my new neighbors have a lot of work that they're doing on their house, which I can empathize with because we were in a similar situation. We both have very old houses and it needed a lot of work when we first moved in, so I understand, but it's been a little bit difficult to find time to record around that. But all that being said, today I'm going to be doing a book review for A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. I enjoyed this book way more than I thought I was going to. Typically, retellings had never been something that I was ever interested in reading, but I think this has really got me into it. I really enjoyed this book. It was also my first time attempting to tab, so that was fun, and I tried annotating in my book, but that was really hard to do. I've typically been someone who doesn't like writing in my books. I used to like to keep them really pristine, so at least with this I'm able to take the stickies off, and if I did write in it, I did with pencil, just in case I change my mind. But yeah, it was really fun. What I used was pink was anything that was like love related or something that I really loved. Purple was originally going to be used for foreshadowing, but I didn't feel like putting the effort in, to be honest. And also, like, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so I didn't really think that it was going to be helpful to look for foreshadowing, so these are all the times that the one character Lilith shows up. I don't know why that was important to me at the time, but I started doing it, so I just continued for the rest of the book. And then blue is any like action scene, and yellow is anything that made me smile or laugh. I really enjoyed this book, and I had a lot of fun tabbing for the first time. I read this in a day, so if you're looking for a light, fun, quick read that's a good time, this is probably going to be the book for you. So similar to the past reviews that I've done, I will be starting spoiler-free for the first half of the video, but I'm going to switch it up a bit, and then at the end I'll do all my wrap-up thoughts, but I will put a timestamp down below so you're aware of when to stop watching, but I'll also give you a warning for where you can skip ahead to my ending thoughts on the book. But if you haven't read the book and you don't want any spoilers, I'll for sure make it known when to stop or when to skip ahead when we get to that point. So the very basic summary of A Curse So Dark and Lonely is that it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So this is a dual perspective first-person story that follows our two main characters, Harper and Wren. Harper is from our world. She lives in Washington, D.C., and Wren is a cursed prince. Wren has been cursed to repeat the season of his 18th birthday over and over until he's able to break the curse. The only way that he can break the curse is by having someone fall in love with him. At the end of each season, he turns into a beast, which is different every time. It's a monstrosity. And his bodyguard, Gray, is there to stop him from killing everybody, basically. Gray's another one of our main characters, but he's not a perspective character. He is the last of Wren's royal guard. Wren and Gray have been stuck in this cycle for over 300 seasons so far. At the beginning of each season, Gray portals into our world to pick a girl to take back into their world to potentially fall in love with Wren and break the curse. So this season, when Gray shows up in our world, he's talking to a girl, and Harper sees that he is basically attacking this girl and trying to kidnap her, and she jumps in, hits him with a crowbar, and she ends up being taken instead, and that is where our story begins. So to go into some of the characters, our first main character, Harper, she is a girl from our world. She lives in Washington, D.C. She has a lot going on in her personal life before she's taken to this fantasy world. Her mom's currently dying of cancer, her dad has disappeared due to some deaths, and her older brother has stepped in to kind of take over the role of what their father was doing and has gotten himself into some financial difficulties. And at the beginning of the story, Harper is standing on guard for her brother while he's doing some task, and she's there to watch over him. So when she gets kidnapped, the whole time she's so worried about what's happening with her mom, obviously, because her mom is so ill. She's very concerned for her mom's health while she's gone, and she's also concerned because she has no idea if her brother made it out okay. From what you can tell, Harper has a really good relationship with both her mother and her brother. Her brother does look down on her like a little sister, that she's not really capable of as much. It's partially due to the fact that she has cerebral palsy. I really liked the disability representation in this story. It's not something that we get a lot in fantasy. It's not something that I can speak to. I don't have cerebral palsy, so I can't say how accurate it was. I've also heard that people who have cerebral palsy have said that this is a fairly accurate depiction, and it seems to have gotten a lot of support. The most important thing though is that Harper is not, of course, her disability, but Harper definitely had her own voice and her own personality, and she was such a fun, great character. I really enjoyed following her perspective. Oftentimes I find that in first person young adult fiction with a female lead, she's kind of like a blank slate that you can insert yourself into to imagine that you're in the world, but Harper definitely had her own voice and was her own person. She's definitely a really strong character. She's determined, and she's stubborn, and she's intelligent, and I've really enjoyed following her and watching her grow throughout the story. I found that her reaction at the very beginning after she was taken and finds herself in this new place, that it was pretty realistic. I can't say that I would have acted any differently. She's really distrusting. She wants to get out of there. She wants to escape. She wants to find her way back home, and she just takes off because she's in this building that she soon comes to realize is a castle, and she starts running away and is trying to get out of here and wants to find her way home, and her reactions to the magical things that are going on. I also really like throughout the whole story that she is a very genuine and empathetic character, even though she has no personal stakes for all of the other things that are going on in Emberfall. She still tries to help, and she still tries to do good deeds. And even though at the beginning, because we know this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, there's a lot of will they, won't they, she tells right at the beginning, she's like, I'm not gonna fall in love with you, but I'm still gonna help you, and I want to help your people, and I want to do good by everybody. So Ren is the cursed prince in this kingdom. He was cursed by the enchantress Lilith for reasons that are revealed later on in the story, so I won't be talking about them right now. But I was happy to see that he was different from the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast. Like, he's not just some spoiled, angry British prince. I mean, with all princes, they of course come with a lot of privilege, but he's a lot more guilt-ridden and selfless, which is something that I really enjoyed getting to know with his character throughout the story as we got to know him more. You can see that he really hates becoming the Beast, but he also takes it on as a self-punishment. Like, he does want to get out of it for the safety of his people and for everyone else around him, but he also feels like it's a punishment for himself for what he did. It's not something that he wants to rectify for himself specifically. You can tell that becoming the Beast and going through this and failing every season for over 300 seasons has really taken a toll on him. He's become really resigned and withdrawn in himself, but you can still see that he does have a glimmer of hope that maybe one day this curse will be broken. So he has become very physically withdrawn into the castle. They're secluded in the castle, only him and Grey and the rest of the people outside of the castle. Time passes normally for them, but for him and everyone in the castle, so him and Grey, are stuck repeating the season over and over. So he's become really secluded in there for the safety of everybody else. But he's also become really withdrawn into himself. He lets these feelings of guilt as well as Lilith torture him as a form of self-punishment and self-acceptance for what he feels like he has also done wrong. You can also tell that he's become really disconnected from the girls that come in every season. And I think this ties partly into the feeling of hopelessness, because he does have hope that it'll get better, but he also seems kind of resigned to the fact that he might be trapped in the cycle forever. Harper calls him out on it, but he isn't being as genuine and open with the girls that he meets because he's trying to woo them with an end goal of breaking the curse, and he sees it as a win and as a goal and as a thing to obtain, as opposed to trying to find love and trying to get to know everyone. And so that was a fun remark that she calls him out on. The next character, Gray. I loved Gray. I loved Harper and I loved Ren, but I also really liked Gray. And I think that most of the fandom and everyone else who has read this book, that Gray tends to be one of the favorite characters. He's that classic, like, dark brooding type with a tough exterior that you can tell has some soft emotions on the inside, and he can be really kind and caring, but he's also very stoic and loyal. So those tend to be traits that people often like when it comes to male characters in fantasy stories. Although he's not a perspective character, he is one of the main characters and has a huge impact on the plot and everything that goes on in the story. And he's one of the first people to really interact with Harper and make her feel some sort of connection and to make her feel welcome in this new world that she's found herself in. And it's really cute because they develop a friendship, and Harper calls him Scary Gray, which I thought was a charming, cute little nickname. But yeah, I really liked all three of these main characters. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book was the characters and the depth that we got in the characters. We got their backstories, their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their motivations, and so I really liked feeling that sort of connection with the characters, watching the characters grow. And the thing that brought this Beauty and the Beast retelling to another level for me was because even though what Ren and Gray are doing with kidnapping women is awful, I was so happy to see that this wasn't just the classic Stockholm Syndrome type story, because you can see that they have motivations and you can kind of empathize where they're coming from, which puts them in a bit more of a morally gray area, because they want to break the curse and it's not just for themselves, it's to save everyone in their kingdom, not purely selfish. It was nice because you could feel where each character was coming from. I really enjoyed the kind of depth that we got with the characters in this book, because I feel like that was something that was really lacking for me when I had done some of my past reviews, so I felt like I got it here and I was happy with that. When it came to the atmosphere and kind of world building of the book, I felt that it was really well done. I think this was really easy to convey because Harper was new to the world, so she was exploring it, she was looking at things, analyzing things, talking about thinking about the environment that she was in, so we really got that perspective from her. And even through some of Ren's perspectives as well, we can see, because he hasn't ventured outside of the castle, we can see him thinking about a lot of the things that have changed, or even like loathing some of the things that are going on in the castle. For example, the music that plays on end in the Great Hall. Both of their thoughts and feelings about their environment really helped create that atmosphere, and I felt like there was enough left up to the imagination, but also enough description that I was immersed in the world. I also liked through Ren and Harper's discussions that you could see the political landscape start to come to life as well, because there is a lot more going on than the will they, won't they fall in love and break the curse type story. There is other things going on, which was interesting. So the writing of this book was really simple, straightforward. It wasn't overly flowery or distracting, but it wasn't lacking by any means. The thing I really liked about the dual perspective was I enjoyed both of our characters, and switching back and forth between them didn't feel like something that annoyed me. I was equally excited about going back and forth between both of the characters. I was never sad to leave one of them because, oh, I had to read this other character's point of view for a while. I really liked getting inside of both of their minds and watching what they thought about each other and how that changed over time, so that was really fun for me. There are 3 tropes that are often said to be in this story, and so I'm going to bring them up right now, but I'm not going to let you know which ones were or were not in the book because I don't want to spoil anything. But of course there's the hate to love, there's the I'm not like other girls trope, and love triangle. So some of them I felt like could have been in there. I don't really agree as much with other people about it, so I'll get more into that into the spoilers. When it came to the plot of the book, I thought it was really well paced. It picked up really quickly and I was immersed right away. You're kind of dropped right into the situation. It's the beginning of the season and I didn't feel like I was bored at any point. When it comes to the plot itself, some of the other things that were going on did seem a bit outlandish and I had to just accept it and move on, but it wasn't anything that ruined the book for me. But I'll get a bit more into that part in the spoilers because I don't want to ruin anything for anyone that hasn't read it yet. I think my favorite part plot-wise that I appreciated is we did watch these characters try to make decisions on life circumstances that they felt was right, and one thing that Harper brings up is you have to do the best you can with the hand that you're dealt, and so I really appreciated watching them go through these tough decisions and try to make the most of it. When it comes to intrigue, I definitely felt immersed in the book right from the get-go. I didn't want to put it down, and so I didn't. I finished the whole thing in a day. I felt that the stakes were high enough because at the beginning of the story, Lilith lets Ren know that this is the last season, so this is his last chance to break the curse, and you can tell how desperately they want it, so I really liked that. And then having Harper want to go home so badly also increases the stakes. Sounds like a lot of the girls in the past were like, ooh, a prince, this could be my new life, I could be a princess, and they were more enamored by the life that they could have as opposed to getting to know Ren and breaking the curse. But then with Harper, she is getting to know the people here, she is getting to know the world, but she misses home and her mom and her brother so much, and so that internal tug of war of everything that's going on for her, as well as for Ren being like, do I just give her up and let her be free, but also my people, my kingdom? So that intrigue definitely had me going the whole time. I don't recall any moments where I was bored or wanted to take a break. I feel like I was equally invested both in the will they, won't they, and the plot in the story. I got into this book knowing that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's probably going to be romance heavy, and I was totally here for it. I had so much fun with these characters, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, so I will be getting into spoilers now. I will put a timestamp down below if you don't want to hear any of the spoilers, so you can jump ahead to my final thoughts on the book. But thanks for watching so far. We are going to get into spoilers. Spoiler time. So when it comes to spoilers, first I want to talk about the tropes. The she's not like other girls trope, which is really, really common in YA, I find. In this book, I feel like it was intentional and kind of the point, because all of the girls that had been taken in before weren't ones that broke the curse. They were typically women who were chosen by Gray to potentially satisfy or win over Ren's heart as much as he's going to try to win over theirs. And Harper, it sounds like, is also the first girl who was taken by accident and it was not the intended person that Gray had chosen. Also, she's here to break the curse. Of course there's gotta be something different. Although I do find it odd that none of the other girls had really stood out. I mean, out of 300 girls, there had to have been some that could have been similar to Harper, that could have been headstrong and also reacted the way that she did. I find it really unlikely that she's the first person who is like, what the heck is going on? I need to get out of here. So, but yeah, that's all I had to say about that one. The other trope is hate to love, definitely in here. I don't know why, but I love hate to love, or enemies to love type storylines. For me, I feel it's typically because it's a slow burn, because first you have to go from these two characters hate each other, and then they have to come to understand each other, and then maybe kind of like each other, develop a friendship, and then it develops into a romance. At least those are the types of hate to love or enemies to love type stories that I really like. I do find that it has to be done well in order for me to like it though. Like, each person has to have a reason for hating each other or for being enemies to begin with, and then there has to be circumstances that lead them to actually want to get to know each other and to get past it and build onto that. I do feel like that was really well done in this storyline. I personally really enjoyed it. At the beginning, Harper is super distrusting of Ren. She's like, you kidnapped me, brought me here to break this curse. It's not gonna happen. She really wants to go home, and Ren is very distrusting of her. He's like, oh great, there's no hope with this one. And so you can see them both being kind of annoyed with each other and then like learning how to get past that, and they become friends. I do feel like the romance does start pretty early on, like I think quite early in her first escape, when Ren picks her up and puts her on the horse and they're like cuddling on the horse, they're riding off. Like, that was pretty early in the book that the slow burn kind of started, and for me I really liked it. This was a very like on the more PG side because they didn't even kiss until the very end of the book, which I'm not saying is a problem. It was so cute. It was definitely a slow burn. I really enjoyed that. I really liked watching the characters grow to get to know each other and then show a bit of vulnerability and then learn to appreciate and trust one another, so I liked that. So for the love triangle trope, I have seen some people say that there was a love triangle in this book. I do remember at one point early on in the story writing in the book like, this better not turn into a love triangle, because I hate love triangles in stories, especially the trope of there's this teenage girl who needs to save the world, but she has to choose between one of these two boys first. I don't like that. It's irritating. Love triangles are annoying. They're usually due to poor communication skills. And that's not to say that someone can't like two people at the same time. That's certainly possible. I don't think that the love triangle trope was something that was really prevalent in the story. I do know at the end of the book, when Ren thinks that he's not going to make it and he says to Gray, like, you know what, I saw a connection between the two of you. Maybe you guys can find something together after this. But that was like the potential hint of it happening when they were starting to get to know each other, and I think Ren was getting jealous that Gray and Harper were talking and he hadn't grown close to her yet, and then that comment at the very end was like the closest parts that we had to a love triangle, so I was really glad that it wasn't her trying to decide between Ren and Gray, because that just, for some reason, that just would have been really annoying to me. I mean, Gray is great, so I wouldn't blame her if it did happen, but it's just not my cup of tea. The plot. I think if you've read the book, you're probably expecting my complaint about the plot to be the Princess of DC thing, and I don't know why that bugged me so much, because it is, I think at first I just thought it was so impossible for there to have been this princess from a distant land with this huge army that absolutely nobody has heard of as just something that's accepted. They're like, oh yeah, of course, princess from a land we've never heard of, and them just buying that that's possible. But also there was a time in our world, in our past, where we didn't know everybody everywhere either, so it is plausible, but it just annoyed me. Not severely, like it didn't pull me from the story that much, but it was just a plot line that I just thought was a little weird. There was one of the main antagonists at the end who did call it into question, so I was like, oh, thank God it's not just me. Other plot parts, I really liked the part when Harper goes home. Ugh, Ren deciding to let her go because he knows it's pointless to keep her here. He's like, she's not gonna fall for me if I force her to stay. I may as well let her go, because either way the curse isn't gonna get broken at this point. May as well get her to safety and let her be happy. And then she tells Gray to come back and get her because she wants to come back. She just needs to check in on her mom and her brother. And I was like, yes! Yes for all of this! I really liked that when she got home, she was able to get home to see her mom in time, which was a nice heartwarming moment. And I also particularly loved that her brother just didn't believe her for the most part, because I mean, who would if you had a sibling who just came back and was like, oh yeah, I was just in a fairy tale land for a while. By the way, I told everyone I was a princess. I was living with a prince in a castle, a magic castle where the food is unlimited. Things are great. So I really liked his reaction to all of that. I also really liked that he sat on the bench with her all night, even though he didn't believe her, waiting for Gray to come back, and then he doesn't come back and he's like, maybe we should go home. And then when Gray shows up all wounded and he's like, oh my god, she was right. So all of that part was really fun for me. I have to say the political intrigue wasn't the strongest. I feel like I was more interested in the will they won't they love portion of this book than I was in the political ongoings of the book. But that's not to say that it was boring. I was still interested. I did really enjoy watching them build the army and gather people together, and a lot of those scenes are really fun, especially when she started making friends with other people. I liked that too. For the ending, I liked the ending. I mean, the big battle and him turning into the beast, all of that just wasn't as intriguing for me. I don't know what it was about it, because it was fast-paced, there was a lot going on. I don't know why. Maybe I was just really tired because I had read it all in a day, so it could have just been me. I was totally okay with the fact that the ending was pretty on point with Beauty and the Beast, that they do fall in love at the end, and I didn't have a problem with that. For me, I'm the type of person who is totally okay with rereading books and knowing how things end, because I'm also the type of person who, when things get too intense for me and I don't know where it's gonna go, sometimes I'll flip ahead. So I'm perfectly okay if things are predictable sometimes, because it's less anxiety inducing, which is okay. But I also do really like the intense intrigue of some other books, like Game of Thrones, for example. Killed me. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the ending. I think that I'm gonna keep this in the spoilers for one of my favorites, was the romance. I really liked watching them catch the feels. It was so cute, it was wholesome, it was charming, and I just had a good time with it. And my least favorite was the almost love triangle, which I'm really happy that it didn't end up being a love triangle, and if it was supposed to be, I'm glad that it didn't feel that way for me. Okay, so my final thoughts on the book. Like I said at the beginning, I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. Overall, I would probably give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was attached to the characters. I enjoyed the plotline that was going on. I wasn't pulled from the story. It was fun. It was immersive. The problems that I had with it were really minor, and yeah, so I don't really have too much that I would dock off it point-wise from the book. I am the type of person who does enjoy rereading books, so I probably would give this a reread one day in the future, and I definitely will be picking up the next book. Yeah, if you like fun, fast-paced books that are about saving a kingdom, that are half will they won't they, then this might be the book for you. If you got to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't read the book and you are interested in picking it up, let me know what your thoughts and hopes and fears are down below. If you have read the book, let me know what you thought about it, if you agree or disagree with my feelings about the book as well. I would love to hear your opinions, but thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and have a great day. Bye!